Hey there, welcome to yet another Space Engineer's Circle related video. This turned out to be much longer than I thought, but you can find the parts for the video in the description, so you can skip to any part you find is fit for consumption. Enjoy the video. You can build donuts or toruses. Here I have a very small one with a 5-part segments. If you're making one this small, I'd probably recommend making the segments out of blocks. You can get closer to a circle by using them. Here I have a slightly larger donut. I've set up this medium donut so that I can detach it from a seam I have selected, and then if I reverse the segment hinges, I get this nice effect. Also looks quite nice in the other direction. When you connect the seam back together, the seam that's in the segment hinges, you have to do before curling up the torus. Even though these hinges are lined up perfectly, connecting hinges that are this close to one another causes some problems in the game. The hinges connect to the wrong side of the hinge parts, and some hinges connect to the same hinge part. So you have to first curl up the segments and connect them before curling up the torus. Then you can connect all the hinges. Yeah. In a build like this, you also have to keep the shear inertia tensors on. It gets really wobbly without it, and it may start shaking quite a bit. Alright. I was gonna say you can also fit the engineer inside this smaller donut. Then I have a big boy donut. Takes a while to load in. And this will affect your FPS quite a bit actually. This build has 72 rings, each consisting of 16 parts or these little segments, and that totals up to 1152 subgrids in one build. You can easily fit inside this donut or torus. You could use this build to make a custom tokamak fusion reactor for your base. Just add some spinning projections inside to represent the plasma, and you'll be good to go. Let's see what happens when I drop this from high up. Once again, it's gonna take a while to load in. Right, there we go. Frames are going by quite slowly. Alright. Oh, we have a nice tube. I've also built a few different kinds of motorcycles using the circle technique, or using the circles for the wheels. This is almost the same design as this one, but it has slightly larger wheels. They have some collision issues though. And then, finally, weirdly enough, the thinnest motorcycle you can build, slightly over 2 blocks wide, has 2 block wide wheels. You can even ride this one upside down. And it has some cool spark effects from all the collisions. I've managed to get these 1 block wide wheels aligned with the 2 block wide cockpit by using half armor blocks in the wheel and then connecting them with a mag blade to the rotor. This is a bad design though, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, they don't count as the same grid, so when blueprinting them I have to connect the wheels to the frame with these extra parts. If I remove them, the frame now counts as a separate vehicle from the wheels. And the second reason is, I've noticed in my testing that if you use landing gear or mag blades to connect to a moving or spinning grid for a long time, you can create some phantom forces when building vehicles that have to balance. I usually use gyroscopes with at least one of them set to override, so that it passively keeps the bike somewhat balanced. Then I use the other one to actively balance it myself. You can use the circles to make gears of any shape and size. Well, gears tend to be circular, but I guess you could make a non-circular gear as well. The rotor driving this blue gear is the only one powered. And even though this distance from the blocks to the next block is the same in all the gears, you have to keep in mind that if your teeth face outwards from the gear, they're gonna have a slightly larger distance between them. And if they're gonna face to the inside, they're gonna have a slightly shorter distance. Also for the smaller gears, as they have a larger angle between the two adjacent teeth, they're gonna have a larger distance than a larger gear. This means you're gonna have a hard time meshing a very small gear to a very large gear, unless you use teeth that are attached to the blocks here, like upwards, like this. Then they will have the same distance between them, no matter how large the gear is. Later in the video I have one build showcasing this. I wanted to try to make some planetary gearboxes. The way a planetary gearbox works is you have the drive gear in the middle here, the green one, that's connected to the motor you're using, and then the power is transferred to these 4 outer red gears that mesh with the outside edge, and as the red gears revolve around the edge, the power from them is transferred to the blue cross here. Rotor here isn't powered, just keeping the central cross in place. Think I could even disconnect it, it would still pretty much work. Then I made a slightly fancier version with larger gears here on the outside and a smaller drive gear. This reduces the gearing ratio further. These gears are using the inline teeth I mentioned previously, and they have the exact same distance between them, no matter the size of the gear. In this version, the outside edge also has the teeth lined with the blocks. Once again, the rotor here is just to keep the blue cross in place. I can remove it, and it still continues to work quite nicely. Even try to up the velocity quite a bit. But at that point you're gonna have some sparks flying. And as you can see, this is now completely separate grid. This was my 3rd iteration. I slimmed it down a bit, and now it's 5 blocks tall. Finally, for the planetary gearboxes, I thought the outside gears were a bit too close to each other, so I made one with only 3 wheels. It uses a small circle here with 6 segments to align them exactly. And like before, this rotor isn't really needed. Oh. Well, just removed some blocks that weren't supposed to be removed, so looks like caused some slight mayhem, but let's just try that again. So yeah, this isn't connected anymore, but it stays roughly in place thanks to the decent meshing of the gears. I really don't know what you would use these for in Space Engineers, except for cosmetic designs, since you're always able to fit a rotor where you want. I used this central connecting rotor since at the time of building these planetary gearboxes I hadn't built a bearing yet, so I couldn't have a thing rotating without a central hub. And speaking of bearings and rotating things without a central hub, I have seen things like this built before in Space Engineers. So you have like an outer chassis here with wheels driving and keeping the ring in place. You can control the rotating speed quite well. Does require some propulsion to spin. Oh, well, looks like we lost part of the ring, but somehow it doesn't matter. Building bearings like this allows you to have a rotating object with an open center, so you could build like a door with a rotating outer edge that you can walk or fly through, or some sort of ship repair ring that's rotating, and as you fly through it, it repairs your ship. And you could build this the other way around, so with these supporting wheels on the inside, and then you could have a like rotating outside with opening on the inside. And as you can see, this is a separate grid only held in place by the wheels. I also wanted to have some actual build with a circle, not just showcases and uses for the circles, so I decided to make a simple Ferris wheel, but as usual I couldn't keep it quite that simple. And personally, I think this looks quite nice as far as Space Engineers Ferris wheels go. I also added these automatically opening doors for the carts that stay open while they're down on the bottom and then close as they leave to do their rotation. I have a sensor here that detects the subgrid or static grid that's down here. The sensor reverses the hinge in the door. When it detects the grid leaving the sensor area, it triggers the timer block, which again reverses the hinge. Let's take a ride around it. All other hinges in this build are turned off except the ones on the either side of the Ferris wheel doing the rotating. So these are, for example, unpowered. The Ferris wheel isn't the only amusement ride you could build using circles, as a lot of them are spinning or circular in nature, like carousels, for example. One thing I thought about but ended up not doing for the video was one of those lifting carousels. I'm not sure what the correct term is or the name for the ride, but the ones with the carousel on a lift and some chains hanging off it with seats. That could be a fun thing to build with subgrids, since you could make the chains out of hinges and have the carousel on top be circular, so you could put more than 4 seats on it and have them all face the direction it's rotating in. One thing I might actually try, I haven't tried it yet, turn on the drive rotors, see what happens as they speed up. Looks like we might lose the engineer. Looks like it's still accelerating. I wonder if I could turn off some shear inertia tensors to speed it up even further without causing it to disintegrate. I turned off the shear inertia tensor for the hinges on the rim of the Ferris wheel. So now it rotates much faster. I'll save it here since I want to try some cool trick. I'll set up this button to detach all of the edge hinges. Bye bye. Luckily all of the carts were attached to the spokes of the wheels, so we didn't lose any of them. Oh no, there's been an accident. I hope nobody's gotten hurt. I feel like that's exactly how a Ferris wheel would break and how it would look like. This one technically has nothing to do with circles, but I made a fucking centipede. With the face and the antennae, it technically looks like a caterpillar, but don't at me, bro. So I did use circles for the body segments, but I think you could have used just rings made of blocks, and it would have caused less lag. Since I only have things coming off it horizontally and vertically, I really didn't need to use these circles for it. The reason I did this was I thought about animals that have some circular nature to them, and I thought of snakes and worms and caterpillars, but I wanted to play with some timers, so I decided to make a centipede. It has these undulating walking patterns. It takes a while to get going, since all of the legs don't start moving at the same time. If anyone knows how to disable these puffs of smoke, I'd love to know. But yeah, now that all the legs are moving, you can clearly see the centipede moving. Quite slowly though. The body segments have hinges in between them, since I thought it would be cool to have the ability to turn, but the tolerances in the legs are so tight I can't really turn the body that much without the legs seizing up. Set this to like 5 degrees either direction. You can see it's able to turn its body, but also when it's turned like this, the legs on the inside start seizing up quite a bit, but with much lower limits here. I think it could work. I leave the body twisted and leave a time lapse on while I go make some food, so you can see if it's able to turn. Yeah, not really. This is the like button. This is your cursor. And this is you. So you there, smash that like button. Thank you for watching, and check out my channel for more circle related stuff and other weird content. I think I've had my fair share of circles in Space Engineers for a while, so I'm not sure what my next video is gonna be, but be sure to stay tuned. Bye bye.